have an amazing moderator joining us for the next session. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would now request Mr. Mohit Joshi, CEO, House Media Network India, onto the stage to conduct the next session. Talking about him, I find this really interesting when he have written this on his LinkedIn profile, a passionate individual who believes in the trinity of Purushart, Daiva and Kal. Please put your hands together for Mr. Mohit Joshi on stage.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here. Uh, Thanks a lot, Shankar, Bharat, and the entire team 4D. Let's give them a big hand. I think because of them, we are all here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been here. And I'm here to conduct the first session. And with this, let me invite the dignitaries, the panelists, the fellow panelists who are going to be there with me today. So, can I please call Ms. Amrita Nair, who's the head entertainment ads sales and strategy Disney star, to join me on stage. Mr. Gautam Gupta, who's the MD and CEO, Paradise Biryani. Mr. Praveen Chaudhary, Director, Nexon Paints. We need a louder round of applause, please. And Mr. Karthikeya, who's the founder and chief investment officer, Richmond Ventures Family Office, and single largest promoter, shareholder, Bambino Agri Industries Limited. Please. So welcome everybody. It's early morning and we had a very, I would say, energizing session by the Honorable Governor Ma'am. And I think many things that she said about media were very relevant, and I think some of them will be discussing in this session as well. Before I start, let me, once again say thanks to Shankar, because I'm very attached to South India, and every time this session happens, he allows me to go back to 25, 30 years back when I used to be in South India, and that's always a very good feeling to be here. Now coming to our panel, we'll call our panel Meaningful Brands, Building Meaningful Brands Using Meaningful Media. So while these are certain terms, we'll discuss these in more detail as we go forward, and see what you think about all this, and how this fits in your scheme of things, because each one of you are brand custodians in your own way, and brands are being built every day, as Madam Governor also said, that it's essentially all about brands. So when I started my career in advertising many years back, and you can maybe see the gray hair that I have and guess my age, but I was very fortunate to have worked in brands which were very strong in South India. So I started my career in Delhi, but the first brand that I got to work on was Horlicks, and Horlicks had the entire South as its main market. So I was one of those, I would say, very few people who started planning South media first and then national media. And I still believe that South media is very different from the rest of the markets. And the way the South India Summit has been moving from one city to the other clearly shows us that there is a huge possibilities and huge capabilities in the South markets. The southern brands have become big and become national over a period of time, and that's something that has been inspiring to all of us. I'll come to the meaningfulness part of the discussion that I just had, and this comes from a philosophy as well as a research that we do at Havas, where over the last 10 years, we've been researching and asking consumers, what do you think about brands? Would you switch to another brand if this brand disappeared? And a surprising 80%, 85% first, and then 80% over a period of time said they would not care and they would shift to another brand. And that made us think why? What is it that makes consumers connect with the brand? There are three aspects: the functional aspect of the brand, whether it's doing what it is doing; the personal aspect of a brand, whether it's giving me happiness; and also the collective aspect of the brand, whether it is doing positive things to the society or not. So that's our philosophy. But before I start, I would want to ask you what are your most meaningful brands in whichever way you think meaningfulness for yourself. So may I start with you, sir?
So I think Apple is a brand which has been a part of us.
Have it a little closer to you.
Yes. So yeah, Apple has been a predominantly a brand which has been a part of our lives for a very long time. Even from the childhood, we've been coming using iPods and then iPads and MacBooks and iPhones now. So I think Apple is a brand which has been a part of our lives and will be for a longer time.
Amrita, what is your take on?
It's a very tough question, actually. Uh, you know, I have several products rather than brands, but if I were to think of a brand, it will be uh, Amazon Kindle. I don't have a replacement for this, and it's another brand, but how it has sort of changed my life, the way I read, I can carry my library with me. So I would give Amazon Kindle as the brand, which I
Great.
can't do without.
I think the two brands that I wanted to talk about, my co-panelists already mentioned
I,
about
I
it.
request you to keep it a little closer to you.
So the two brands that I wanted to talk about, my co-panelists already mentioned that. But I also look up to Amazon in a way because it's both B2B and B2C. So I think that's something which really stands out and I relate to.
Pratham, you?
Yeah, so I think one meaningful brand is LinkedIn because it helps individuals to build their own brand. I think that was the first platform. We build brands, but we don't build our own brands, right? So that's one. And I can't help mentioning an Indian brand, Go Colors. Very targeted audience, affordable products. I think more than 1,000, 1,500, very silently. Any corner you go to, south or north, uh, you know, based on simplicity of product and value for money, which is so important for that. And the other brand is Skechers, because I think most of us wear Skechers, and it's just the quality of the product and the fact that now every other brand, whether it is Bata or Nike, is trying to introduce those foam-based products. So these are the meaningful brands for me.
Great, thanks a lot. And now let me tell you what our research suggests. Of course, it does not capture 100% of the brands in India, but every year we keep on increasing the base. So the most meaningful brand is Google, as per the research that we have. And I'm sure you'll agree with it because if Google disappears tomorrow, we would not know what to do. And so much of our work is done by Google. The second is Amazon. I think you mentioned Amazon, because Amazon over the last 3 years has become even more meaningful given the COVID and the access that it has provided us. YouTube, entertainment is very important, and WhatsApp, and finally Flipkart. I'm talking about the top five. There are many over here. So great. I think that was an interesting set of discussions with you. Now, how do we build meaningful brands? The whole philosophy that we have is that a lot of media or communication or content that we have in the environment, the consumers are not connecting with it, right? And we realize that consumers connect with meaningful media. Every consumer has a media which is meaningful to him or her, and that's their media. That's the media that they care about. And we have to ensure that we place our communication in those areas so that we build meaningful brands. So my next question is to you, Amrita. And essentially, research is today showing that 88% of India watches TV with someone else sitting alongside them. How do you view the relevance of shared experiences about brands and their stories happening as a result of mass collective TV viewing? What should be TV's innovation agenda to make itself more relevant to the brands and lives of people? Can I please request people at the back to be a little silent, please? I think it's disturbing the panelists over here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohit. So there are two questions here.
That's
One
right.
is about
Should I repeat?
no. One is about the shared experience of television viewing, and the other is about the innovation part of it, right? So let me take the first question, which is about the shared experience of television viewing. Television is like a glue. It brings the family together. It is long replays the dining table experience that we have had, wherein the family come together and for a meal. So television is the glue, and in India, uh, it is majority of the households are single TV households. And what television does is it allows people to come and consume TV on a daily basis to watch the content with intent. So they're aware what to expect out of TV. Let's say at 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. when they decide to watch something, it's appointment viewing. And most importantly, this content is brand safe. I'm bringing that differentiation because today there is a lot of proliferation of content across all mediums. But not all of it is brand safe. So what television does is it brings trusted content. It brings audiences, for appointment viewing. It brings the family together. And what does it do for the brand? It elevates brand conversations. So like, for example, an advertiser who is actually looking at an age group of 15 to 40 and wanting to deliver the brand communication only for that age group, television is actually delivering that brand communication to everybody in the family, all 2+. But what happens is, it can trigger a conversation around the brand and it would help to build that brand. So that is what it would do for brands, when they come on television. The second part of the question is essentially on innovation. Like everybody, spoke about innovation. Even Amala ma'am spoke about innovation and what the future, holds for us. Technological disruption, AI, all of that. But let's just simplify it. What television in South India has actually done is, 25 years ago, it started geo-targeting. And what do I mean by that? TV, the pioneers in broadcast industry, identified that each of these states in South India speak a different language, and they acknowledge the cultural nuances of these states, just like movie industry, and made content curated for each of these states, keeping those cultural nuances in mind. TV particularly, if you were to look at South India, the 4 or 5 states that we have over here, I'm considering Telugu as a region, AP and Telangana put together, all of these states the consumers have a better purchasing power. And these markets are very, very relevant for brands for just this one reason. And in this market particularly, for advertisers, television is that one medium that can reach or bring scale, because TV in South India has a penetration of 90 to 95%, right? And most cost efficient too. It'll always remain that way. Now, to talk about further innovation in the future, I think, TV requires to give an opportunity for advertisers to reach out to, let's say, affluent audiences particularly. We are in conversation with some of the DTH operators to make sure that we have a select cohort of, let's say, DTH consumers that advertisers can reach out to, perceived to be the affluent audiences. Let's say if you want to advertise for only consumers in Hyderabad, let's take Tata Play for instance. We could, sooner than later, maybe in a couple of months' time, we will be launching this, and you can advertise for only consumers in Hyderabad, let's say in a high definition platform. It will continue to innovate that way. And the second thing is, while it is not innovation by virtue of it, but by virtue of it is innovation, is television is also about the influencers. And all the characters that we have today have huge consumer following. And television's power is also today linear and beyond. If you look at social media, most of the influencers that you see, they are TV characters. And they have they provide content, they reach the consumer's home every single day. And that gives them that popularity, both in the consumer's hearts and on social media. And this would be the next leg of, how innovation would happen for advertisers through television's content and characters, I would say linear and beyond. Thank you.
That's a great answer, and I believe you said it very well when you said that, the southern states started geographical targeting many years back, and that's absolutely right. So you're all in for television, and completely aligned with you the way CTV is growing, but finally it's a part of television, and that's the larger ecosystem how it's going to be going. Now let me come to you, Praveen. You manage, the brand and obviously brand building, and you'd be using a lot of what Amrita just said in terms of content on television. And that's what my next question to you is. That southern markets or states have always witnessed a history of brands associating with marquee non-fiction events, right, on linear TV, and now, of course, on CTV as well, as things are moving, such as Big Boss, such as Super Singer, and they have generated disproportionate amount of consumer engagements and viewership. So how do you see this trend going forward?
I feel this trend is this trend holds more weightage as of now. It has been coming for the last couple of years. Big Boss shows like Big Boss, the singing shows and all, they hold more weightage for advertisers, and I see this trend will continue for a good long time. Given the transition which is happening over the digital, the OTT platforms coming up. But I feel in South India, the kind of OTT platforms like AHA, which is Hyderabad based, I feel these are more upcoming platforms. Given in the next couple of years also, the TV will hold more weightage. It is still being transitioned towards digital, but TV is going to be there for a good long time.
And you feel that these shows will always continue to garner the kind of viewership that they have, and you'll always be spending in these shows with your
The
brand?
spending is been increasing day by day. The brands which are being associated, the shows will continue on the TV. I'm assured.
Absolutely. In fact, I remember when I used to do planning, Chitti was one serial which used to run. I don't know how many years it ran on Sun TV, and a rating of 30, 35 TVRs in those days. Those were the days. Today you don't even get 5 ratings. But South has always been a very, very unique country, I would say, when it comes to television viewing. I would come to you, Mr. Karthikeya, and you also are building a brand, and you have built a phenomenal brand over the years. I want to ask you about your learnings on what elements are essential in building a great brand. I spoke about meaningful brands and the 3 tenets, but that's basis our research. I would want you to share with us your learnings, because you have built a brand from scratch over the years, and what kind of smart financial investment is that important, or is there a pre-existing model that you follow which is important, or do you do high media impact buying? How have you built the brand? So if I could understand from you your learnings on the way you have built a brand.
I think brand building, I think it has to got to do more with fundamentals, and having your back end in place, or having your distribution in place, having the product in place, and then going for a marketing campaign, and putting that in place would translate into numbers. So I think fundamentals is the most important thing in building a brand. And of course, going for media campaigns, I mean, it changes from time to time, and looking at what's relevant at that point of time with the consumers is important.
Coming to you, Gautam, and wish we had your biryani here today, but I was told we will not be allowed because the hotel will not allow the brand to be inside, but we'll definitely go out and have it together. As we near the festive season, we'll see a lot of regional focused marketing campaigns as well, right? That's something that always happens, and before that also in Reckitt and all, we always had those spikes during the festive season. What is your take on companies, brands who are being more inclined towards regional festivals as key events for their marketing endeavors and across platforms? So how do you see the regional versus national playing in this whole scheme of things?
Yeah, so national starts with regional, right? I mean, we are 26 countries and counting, as they say. I think food is very intrinsic to our culture. I want to use the example of food to give a context. I think anytime we celebrate a festival, first thing we do is something with food, right? So, food brands like us have an intrinsic connection with culture and festival. I'll give you an example of Ramzan festival which comes every year. We have a product called Halim, and not only us, I think the entire Hyderabad sells Halim. And this is from various brands. For those 2 months, it is completely occupied our restaurants, our takeaways, our delivery. More than 20-25% of our business comes from one product. And this is how cultural it is. And while Ramzan is a Muslim festival, the food is not limited to one part of the society. I mean, everybody enjoys Halim. Halim has a role to play in the religion, but at the end of the day, it is also a delicious product. So I think food and topical relevance of festival has always been very, very high. What our learning is that today, from a media point of view, I think attention spans are very short. Attentions are fragmented, right? So when we look at these kind of topical interventions, festival interventions, we have a 360-degree approach to media. So we look at ambient media, we look at digital, not only performance campaigns, but we also look at influencers. In our food business, genuine influencers play a role. Madam talked about media influencing, but there is this whole, section of people, youngsters, middle-aged people, older people, who want to influence and, build their own brand also. I think that's in the food industry plays a big role for us, right? We of course do the media on TV and radio and so on and so forth. But I think topicality of festivals for food will always be very, very, important. At the same time, I think our approach and our learning has been doing 360 degree. Now, to the point on national versus regional brands, I think a brand like us, we have most of our presence, while we are present in 20 cities across South India, most of our presence is in our home markets of AP Telangana. We have worked on TV campaigns which are very isolatable. The ROIs which you get are very high because you don't have spills. For example, if I'm a brand based in North India, I would have to do campaign to reach terrestrial, channels and all that. But in South, even on a mass media like TV, we are able to get good ROIs because it's very isolatable. It is very focused, as you mentioned some time back. So, and I think we hope that, regional brands like us, food brands like us would be able to go national. We are nowhere close to it. But since biryani is the #1 selling product in India, it's the comfort food of India, we hope that we'll be able to take the Hyderabad legacy forward across various cities. So yeah, that's the way we look at it. Thanks.
Thanks. I think national starts with regional is a great takeaway from that discussion. I completely agree. And I tell my global guys, the way we plan in India is the way you plan in Europe. So if you're planning a pan-Europe communication, you'll have to take care of the sensibilities of so many different countries, their dialects and all. That's what happens in India. So which is the truth, and I think that's the reason why we are so strong here. So Amrita, I'll come back to you now, and this is more around digital. We spoke about TV earlier, and now how do you see digital is being perceived by consumers? Because there is no two ways about the fact that digital is there. We realized in 2022 that it has overtaken television in terms of AdX, in terms of spending, right? And the CTV story is very strong. It's no matter what naysayers might say, CTV is something which is coming very, very strongly and will become a part of the mainline advertising very, very soon. So with tradition, but at the same time, you also have small cities, right, where still the CTV would not have penetrated. So how do you manage that with non-traditional modes of content consumption being growing substantially in the smaller towns and in the larger towns, and the conventional communication or conventional way of television growing in the smaller towns? So how do you manage that, and what is your perspective on that, and how do you see it growing?
Thanks, Mohit. So in fact, before I get into the answer of this question, I just want to set the context right about few things. First thing, I believe that if digital AdX is overtaken television, I think the fraternity is to be blamed for it.
The fraternity needs to be?
The advertiser fraternity or the media agency fraternity needs to be blamed for it. Think about it. 900 million MAU for TV, and the largest digital platform on television, digital platform, video platform, has about 450 million. Why did we allow, I know it is not, digital video AdX is not overtaken television video AdX, but despite the numbers being so high for television, we have allowed digital AdX to overtake television, right? And I am not complaining, but it's just, that's what has happened. In hindsight, that's how it has happened. Now, coming to the point that he made about connected TV, look, anything new will have a great narrative, anything new. But if you look at connected TV, the numbers are so small today. It's just that, people sitting over here may be consuming a lot of connected TV. That is not a true representation of this country. It is not a true representation of any of these southern states. It is not a true representation of any other part of this country either. If you look at TRAI's reported wired broadband connection, that number is about 31 million connections, mind you, 31 million connections. It does not say 31 million is household. All of us work, we go to work, we have Wi-Fi connection in our workspace. So nobody has a clue about how many households contribute to that 31 million wired connections. It's anybody's guess. But that guess also has some merit. Let's say roughly about 15 million households has a wired broadband connection. So the universe for connected TV, the max limit is 15 million. But we see a lot of reports talking about, higher numbers for connected TV every other day. So it is important that we believe the right information, we believe the right data, and before we actually evangelize something that I won't say that doesn't exist, of course it exists, that's not as big today. Now coming to the question, Mohit asked about digital's proliferation and how it is being pursued by consumers in the smaller towns. Of course, digital is growing, right? But like I told you, remember 900 million MAU for television versus a 450 for a digital video platform. It clearly has doubled the consumers coming and watching TV, double the consumers. And one can safely assume that 450 million could easily be a subset of this 900 million of TV universe. Yeah? So, what does it mean? Ultimately, that 450 million incremental that is coming on television is essentially coming from some pockets of the country, right? And that's where the relevance of the question that Mohit is asking. So, just a little snippet of information for you all. Even in the US, considered to be the most developed market for media consumption, long format content on digital has not overtaken television time spent even today. For this forum, this audience sitting out here, it may be a data point that you won't believe, but this is the truth. Long format content, even in the United States, digital long format has not overtaken television even today. Now coming to southern India and the pockets of these markets. Remember, this is a market with 90 to 95% of television penetration and broadcasters who are also digital publishers. Remember, linear is just not linear anymore. My network or any other network for that matter, all of us have an OTT platform. So what matters is content. You have the old adage says that content is king or queen. I refuse to say it is king, but it is content that matters. And on television today, it is professionally generated content. It is not the user-generated content that you can't really trust to run an ad. Even today, most of the advertisers, when they advertise on digital, they would insist, I want professionally made content. I don't want user-generated content. But to what extent the digital platforms today have professionally made content is a question. They really don't have as much content that TV would have. So back to how we see it. Of course, digital is growing and it will continue to grow. There is no doubt about it. And it will continue, connected TV will continue to grow, digital penetration will continue to grow, video consumption will continue to grow, social media consumption will continue to grow. All of that will continue to grow. But the fact is, what we must not forget is, television is already at scale with 95% of penetration in South India. At scale. And it is the most cost efficient, especially in South India. So it is a judicious decision for an advertiser to take how they want to spend their money and how they want to reach the consumer. Whether they want to have personalized messaging, they want it to be reached out to the entire family, which will lift conversations like I earlier spoke about. And that is what is going to change an advertiser's decision and even the consumer's decision. When you are free, when you have nothing to do, I keep, going through content on whether it is social or news or anything that comes to me, right? That's how time spent will grow. So these two will coexist.
Thanks, and very important. So I don't want to get into a TV versus digital debate over here. That's not this session. And but a very important thing that you said, and which is what I want to, and this is a new question for all of you. It's all about content, as you rightly said, and that's where I spoke about meaningful media. What is meaningful to you? What is it that is connecting with you? That's essentially what you would be consuming. So if I could ask each one of you, what is your most meaningful media? So it could, and I'm not saying TV, print, radio, but I'm saying any specific thing that you get connected to, which you spend a lot of time, that you can, that you have highest attention given to. So may I start with you, sir?
Digital has been the medium for me, I mean, personally, digital has been the medium for me. I don't remember it's been the longest time I've recharged my Tata Sky. It's always been digital for the last few years. So I think for me, digital plays an important role for me. Though the television for advertisers and the kind of target audience you want to target, I think television is important too. But for me personally, I think digital.
Are you happy with Twitter bird getting executed? I'm not, absolutely not.
I think that's
livid.
something all of us are wondering what's happening with it.
Anybody over here who's happy with the execution of the Twitter bird? I'm sure nobody. You are? Rohan, you are? We'll meet after this. That's for the evening. Well, Amita, what is your most meaningful media? You know, what is it that you love watching? As you said, you watch a lot of content. What is it that is closest to your heart that you would want to spend a lot of time?
So it's not an occupational hazard. I would like to, if me as a person, right, not representative of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You as a person, not
as
as
a person, I'll
representative.
tell you,
Yeah.
I'm not on social media, so I honestly I don't know how it works because I've been always a private person, so I don't understand, why people would enjoy somebody posting pictures and then reading about it and like the voyeuristic pleasure. I don't get it. But my day starts with Times of India and Economics Times, and if you consider it as I'm an old-fashioned
No,
person,
absolutely.
I have to read. And the second thing that
So is that the old format or the new format? The physical
no,
newspaper?
it is the physical one, but I also have a subscription of that's where it is. I also have a subscription for the digital. I don't know why I have both, but the fact is I have both and I read both. And Mint is the other one, and Ken is the other one. From a content point of view, I consume a lot of movies. And let me tell you, and it's not because I am from Kerala. I love Malayalam movies. So if there is something that it's my go-to content is predominantly if there is a new Malayalam movie, that's what I would consume. And besides all the Hollywood content that.
Before I come to you, sir, let me give you an example. You know, there's a very interesting thing about old format versus new format print. And very recently, we were on a flight to Kochi from Delhi. You know, and during the flight, I had gone to the washroom and I was coming back. And I was surprised to see at least 15 people had physical newspaper in their hands. I'm not joking. I didn't take a picture. Normally I did normally I do, but I didn't have my phone with me. But I was surprised and positively surprised by seeing so many people actually reading the newspaper. Because if you see a Delhi, Bombay, or any other sector, it's everybody's on their either iPhones, pads, or whatever it is. But in that flight, there were close to 10 or 12 people who were religiously reading the newspaper. So yes, I completely agree with you on that. Mr. Karthikeya, what do you do when you've had a bad day, you want to just relax and have some good content that you want to watch or be associated with? What would that be? Netflix.
Yeah, I think that's the most relaxing thing ever. But yeah, I mean,
Good. Pratham, what about you? Don't say, she's already said Times of India, Economic Times.
I will not name the brands, but I'll talk the concept of having a peaceful Zen morning with a cup of tea,
Okay.
smell of newspaper, and whatever you read. I think that's something which will never go away from my personal life, I can tell you that. I think I do, like her, I mean, a lot of other people subscribe to the digital version, but somehow the Zen feeling of flipping through a newspaper and having a sip of tea or coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning, there is no substitute for that. It may sound old school, but that's what it is, right? The other part, since you mentioned the dinner day part also, and we all live in day parts, I think consuming sports, especially cricket, recent Ashes series, 2 hours in the evening was Zen for me, absolutely. Outstanding commentary, outstanding cricket. Of course, it doesn't happen every day, but then you have to wait for those golden instances. So that's the one what I do personally.
Interesting. For me, it is Twitter. So that's the reason why I'm absolutely irritated with the Twitter bird getting executed. And how much time do we have? I don't have a clock or a 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. So now I'm coming to the next question. Brands, media, finally, brands are built by meaningful media, right? But brands are built by people. And brands are built by people in the organization. And people is always an issue. You know, getting the right people in your organization who have the right attitude, you know. And in my B school, my prof once told me that when you evaluate a person, evaluate the person on the basis of knowledge, attitude, and behavior. But the percentage should be 1 is to 10 is to 10,000. Knowledge can be imparted, attitude can be created, skills can be, you know, built. But if you have a positive attitude or the right attitude, that's what is most important. And I believe in that philosophy even today when I interact with people. So I want to ask you, how's the you know, the manpower situation in your organizations, and how do you motivate your people? Because finally, it's not you alone who can build a brand. It's the entire team that has to build a brand, right? And over a period of time, we've seen, at least I have personally seen, huge amount of attrition. People are not sticking to. I have been 16 and a half years with Havas, but you know, those are rare situations where people stay so long. People are, especially the new generation, who's very important and who's running the, you know, the at least the you know, the lower most important operational aspects of your organization are new gen. So what is one, the first question to each one of you is, what is the situation in your view, and how do you motivate them to continue staying with the organization? So, you know, when I talk about meaningfulness is not just for brands, it's also for people. How can an organization be meaningful to a person, to an employee in the organization? So my organization is meaningful to me. That's the reason why I've stayed for 16 years. So some light on that as per whatever you have experienced in your careers. So starting with you, Praveen.
So I feel the talent in South India is pretty good. You see people from South India leading global companies, but for an upcoming brand like ours, I think the kind of workforce which we attract is not, how do I say, it's not, I mean, I agree with you when you said the kind of people you look at attitude. It's one of my professors also who told me at the B school. So I have taken that
You
point.
must have had the same professor.
I hope. So I think when we look at recruiting, attitude is something definitely we look at. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone from a very good institution or something. It can be a person who is from a regular college or a good institute coming from anywhere in South India. I think that kind of holds more weightage for us. It doesn't have to be someone from IIT or anyone. And the the activities we do to maintain and keep these guys along with us. So we've had people who've been working with us for last 15 years also. So we keep engaging them in multiple activities. Also, we identified a few managerial level people in the organization and put them under the assessment programs which have been going for a couple of years now. So these are some activities which will have a personal touch with them and retain the team. I mean, given an I mean, for us, being an upcoming brand, the attrition rate is also pretty high because everybody wants to today work for bigger organizations. So I feel to attract the right crowd is you have to identify the right kind of person you're looking for and give them a better role clarity on what you're giving them a role.
Thanks. Amrita, what has your experience been? I'm sure similar, but
Yeah, so Mohit, in fact, you know, ours is like just like any FMCG company, right? Wherein we have presence across all markets. We have offices in, you know, a business run from Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Hyderabad, Karnataka, and so on and so forth, right? You know, one thing I can tell you, the way I mean, in my mind, how I would simplify this is talent and intent, right? You can find a lot of people with talent, but intent is what is more critical. Intent would get you reliability. You can just, you know, literally blindly trust. And like you rightly pointed out, it is just not one individual that is building a brand. It's a collective of people that is building brands or businesses for that matter. But one thing that particularly is concerning me in the southern part of India contrary to what we otherwise believe about this region is the gender diversity. And it would be something that most of you would not be able to relate with. But I know for a fact that I find it very difficult to get, enough applicants for a role among female candidates. Very, very difficult to find them to start with, and then, sustain that also. And that's something that I haven't been able to, personally, I try my best to look for enough women candidates before we make the recruitment decision, and then do whatever it takes to make sure that they continue in the workforce. So for all the audiences out over here, one simple message that I want to give you is, I am somebody who started out in South India, born and brought up here, spent most of my life working in the southern, cities, and this industry has been fantastic for me. So it's not a recruitment call, but at the same time, just to give you the confidence that this industry has given a lot to me and many other women colleagues that I have. So it would be a perfect destination for you or anybody that you would know to build a career.
Thanks. Yes, absolutely. It's a very, very important topic. And yes, I'll take another 2 minutes. So, Mr. Karthikeya, what has your experience been with talent in your organization, and how do you keep them motivated?
As most, I'm running my family office, so I'll talk about that. So I think investment professionals, I think, of course, there's a huge supply demand gap, and I think it's over the years going to evolve, and let's see how that.
Gautam, your points on it.
Yeah, quick two ones. I think I'm giving the organizational perspective. It's tough to get talent. I think organizations which define the sense of purpose, people join organizations not for salary but for a purpose. That's my fundamental belief. Number one. How do you retain them? We need to have a very strong culture in the organization. It's an oft used word, but in our case, it's a very simple thing. What business are we in? We are in the business of serving authentic biryani. Who will serve authentic biryani? An authentic organization will serve authentic biryani. Who will make an authentic organization? Authentic people will make. So stay on this culture of authenticity. And people today, in the world of fake news, I think authenticity comes at a premium. So that's what we try. But it's difficult.
Perfect. So I'll just replace authenticity with meaningfulness, because that's what we believe in. So, meaningful brands are made by people who have the right intent, and meaningful brands are made by using meaningful media. And I think that was the crux of this entire session. Do we have time for a few questions from the audiences, or do we? Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. I think everybody here is there in the hall. So if you want to have specific questions, you can ask all of us during the course of the day. Thank you very much.
I guess we have one question that we can quickly take.
Okay.
As we have the time permit. Yeah. Can we quickly have a mic there, please? One question, and then we'll proceed for the next session, taking the time constraint into consideration.
Yeah, morning. My name is Raghavan. My question is to Ms. Amrita Nair. You are saying that long format content is still, consumed on television rather than OTT and social media. Is it not that people go to channel, platforms and revisit them on a large scale? That is not happening. Is that clear? In the sense, previous episodes of serials are watched again by housewives on the next day or the later. So I see that television is suffering because of that.
No, I won't say television is suffering. Like I said, it's all perspectives, right? So has television's 900 million grown? No, it hasn't grown. So you can look at it as TV suffering, and I would say, oh man, 900 million, right? It's perspectives. Now, you were talking about catch-up content, correct? Catch-up content is our own content. So you don't have to differentiate as television screen, which is linear, or the OTT screen. So for example, my organization we have Disney Plus Hotstar. It doesn't matter if Kartika Deepam in Telugu is watched on Star Ma or on Disney Plus Hotstar. It is the content that matters, correct?
Yeah, I'm largely dependent on TV instead of the rest of the platform. So I hope I'll continue to succeed to get the required result.
All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohit Joshi, for
Thank
this wonderful moderation.